This is Gemara Menachos, Daf Yud Aleph, and we're holding on Yud Aleph Amid Aleph. We're about 8 lines from the top of the 2 dots, which we quote the next line of the Mishnah, which is what? Which is explaining to us the din that we ended off the previous year with, which is what? That if within the Kamitza there is Melech, there is an Even, there is a court to Levina. If any of these items exist within the Kemitza, said the Mishnah, it is possible. Why is it possible? Says the Mishnah, because Nishamru, because we said Ha'akoyim Tachazi Yasser is possible. So says the Gemara, I don't understand. Why is the reason that it's possible because it's lacking or it's too much? If I take my kamitza and in my hand there's also a rock, then every dot of the kamitza is not touching my hand. So there should be an issue of chatzitza. From the side, as Rashi says, closer to the thumb, or closer to the kamitza, or closer to the pinky, it's not called a chatzitza. So says Abaye to Rava, we've been learning about kamitza for much of your Menachos. We've been learning about kamitza a lot in Zvachim. So finally, Abaye says to Rava, Tachlis, Ketzad Kaimsin. As people scoop things up with their hands. So Esvei, so frak the Gemara, zu zere, zu kamitza, zu ama, zu etzva, zu goydel. Gemara in Ksubis we learned that we have a name for all the fingers. The pinky is the zeres, the ring finger is the kamitza, the middle finger is the ama, the pointer is the etzba, the thumb is the goydel. So what do we think? That why is the ring finger called the kamitza? Because that's the final finger of kamitza. And we think that we just said that what? That you fully scoop with all the fingers. Says the Gemara, no. You know what it meant? It meant al-hashvois. That's going to be utilized to even it out on either side. Meaning, all the fingers are used, but it's really only 3 fingers worth. So now says the Gemara, so tachlis, how do you do it? Amar Rav Zechar Tov Amar Rav. Chayfesh shalosh etzba yisav. You scoop with 3 fingers. Achamagia al bas yada until you reach your palm. V'kaimetz, and that is. And then you scoop them up. So you take 3 till you go to your palm, and then you scoop it up. Tanami achi araya malei kamsa yachal mi bayretz. Says the Brayso, when the Torah says Malay Kamslai, what does that mean? 2 lines to the wide lines. I would have thought Yachol Mivayrat, that should be overflowing. Tamelai Mar. Says the Torah, Bekamsai, Yachol Beraishet Vaisam, not your full finger, maybe just the tips. Tamelai Mar Melai Kamsai. Haketzad Chavish Bas Yadai. You scoop with 2 fingers onto the palm of your hand in the first wide line, Vekaimet. B'machvat marcheshet, moichek begaydlay milmala betzay kitana. You erase, literally, you push away with your pinky at the bottom and your thumb at the top. Betzay kitana milmatav. Zohi, and this is avoida kosha shebemikdash. This is the shverest avoida on the Beis Hamikdash. For acting Gemara, 1 second. We've had avodas that we call shver. Zuhi, just this one is a difficult avodah. V'sulai. But what about vika malika vika chafina, the chafina of the ketores, or the malika, the shchita of an oif, in which the Gemara used similar terminology? That what? It's an avodah kasha. Says the Gemara, Elazui achas me avodas kashas. This is one of the shver avodas shebe mikdash inside the Beis Hamikdash. It's true. Malika is also, Chafina is also. This is one of them. Amar Papa continues the Gemara. Abyssal more on Kemitza. We're going to see numerous shilas of Rav Papa resulting in teku. So shilah number 1 says Rav Papa, Pshitali. It's Pasha Malay Kumsa Kinam Katsi Inchi. Now, what does Malay Kumsa mean? Like people scoop. So what's my shayla? What if you do it with the tips of your fingers? Teku, says the Amar Papa in a similar vein. She has to be false. What's my shayla? Bayra Papa. Chavan Brashes Aisamau. Minasadamau Chavan Bezu Bezu. The carbon zuetzel zumau. What happens if he did a chafina of the ketayers to the tip of his fingers? He did a chafina with the sides. He did a chafina bezu with both hands. The carbon zeitzel zu, and then he brought the two hands together, not the regular way of doing chafina, the hands together to start. Teku, each of these shaylas requires Eliyahu Hanavi. And another three, what if you took the kimitza, which we know you're supposed to drop and place into a kli sharis? What if instead of placing it into the kli sharis, you place it on the wall of the kli sharis? Instead of dropping it in, you stuck it onto the wall. Do we say, what's the shayla? It's inside the kli. It has to be placed, and it's not placed. Teku, we have to nacham away from Eliyahu Hanavi. What if you flipped over the vessel, and after you flipped it over, you placed it on the bottom? It has to be inside, and this is called inside vika. It has to be the normal way. Teku, so three tekus, followed by two more shaylas regarding the kimitza. Says the Mishnah, shtigl weiter at the Mishnah, the bottom of your Alpha and Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Ketzad hayoyis, what would you do? Pashas yoyis ala pas yadai. Riva shamna chas shamna chisel vaynasa. Psula. Says the Mishnah, what happens if accompanying the mincha there is levina or there is shemen? So what happens if you did not put the right quantity of shemen, either too much or too little, or you did not put enough quantity of the levaina? What is the halacha? So says the Gemara, Hechi dami riba shamna. What is the case pashit of riba shamna, or where you had excess of oil? What's the shayla? So Amar Avalazik on shehifer shlosh nei lugin, that you separated two lug of oil and not one lug. Very simple. But frag the Gemara, no. The look like you're going to Arav Bashemen de Chulin, Vishemen de Chaverta. So why don't we say that when you mixed into lugin, it could be that what? You mixed in a smaller amount of shemen de chulin, shemen de chaverta, and a smaller amount of a regular oil, and then together they get the requisite shear. Maybe you're going to tell me shemen de chulin, shemen de chaverta, loy pasol. Maybe you're going to tell me that the two oils were not pasol, but it's not true. Because 12 lines from the bottom, the first one line is maskiv. Maskiv lo, Rav Zucher bar Tuvia me'ata, minchas chayte de pasol ba'shemen. A michas chayte, which passes, there's no oil in it. Idida halesla idchul chaverta amerloi pasal. So what's the case going to be? And therefore says the Gemara, must be that if you put both of the oils, it's going to work. So frag the Gemara. So why did Rav Lazar say the case of extra oil was that you need to be makdish to lugin? Says the Gemara of Rav Eliezer. This is what Rav Eliezer really meant. To the apostle, if you have both oils, even if you remember shnei lugin from the onset, so you think maybe l'ma'isa they're shayich, so kamash malad, and that is the chiddush that even in such a scenario they certainly are nifsal. Now says Gemara on this din, the Mishnah itself was shmir. My area that done a riboy shamna. What is a riboy shamna? Listi riboy la shemin. Riboy Sham, that sounds like its Shemin was increased. That's the Chiddush, says the Gemara. Even though originally they were Mafish Shnei Lugin, still it's going to be possible. And we continue with the Din of the Mishnah, Chisa Levainasa, you don't have enough Levaina. 2 lines from the bottom, Yud Alpha, Mid Aleph, Tana Rabbanan. Chas Ramnal, Kort Echad, Psula. Ashay Kortin, Sheira, Divri Rabbi Yehuda. So we start with the Braisa. Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, that if it's the Levaina is lacking and you have Kort Echad, then it's possible. A Shnei Koratim, but if there's 2 Kortin, it's kosher. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Shimon Omer, no. Al Kort Echad is Ksheira. Pachas Mikan, anything less than 1 Kort is going to be Psula. Tanya, Frakti Mars, turn over to Alpha Base. Kaimet to Levinish Chazik Al Shu Apostle. We learned that if any little bit of the Kaimet or the Levina is missing, then the ganze Zach is going to be Basel. Explains the Gemara. Tani. Court Levinish Chazik Al Shu Basel. We have to change the second brisa to teach us that a court of Levina that is missing any little bit, like we just suggested, is going to be Basel. V'Iba Yisem a second teretz kan b'levaina abba mincha kan b'levaina abba b'fnei atzma. Different types of levaina will dictate what the din is. And the second brisa said you have to count it by itself. That's called the levaina was delivered b'fnei atzma, whereas kan b'levaina, which is abba im ha mincha. Says the Gemara. Let's dive a little bit deeper. What do we do in these cases in which some of the levaina is lacking? Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef, Amar Rav Yochanan. Shalosh machlokes badavar. We have 3 different machlokes. Rameir savar kaimetz v'tzchila v'kaimetz v'seif. Comes along Rameir. Rameir says you have to start with the kaimetz and you got to end with the kaimetz. That is the din, says Rameir. Rabbi Yehuda savar no kaimetz b'tzchila, and how much b'seif? Not the whole kaimetz, but rather v'shnei karta b'seif. Shemin savar kaimetz b'tzchila and kort echad b'seif. And where do these 3 shitas get this din from? The quantity. What's going on? Says the Gemara. Guess what? Ushleish demigracha darshu v'eskol levaina shala mincha, says the Torah. So Rameir savar adis levaina dikvei b'adei mincha. Until that is there, until that levaina is going to be present. Meikara. Rav Yehuda savar no, says Rav Yehuda. Kol vafilu chad court as Rab is the Rab's court acher. Rav Shimon as lo darish. So that's going to be the 3 shitas. So where do these 3 shitas? That's where they stem from. That's shleisha mikrecha darshu. Now says the Gemara, let's take this one step weiter. V'amar Rav Yosef bar Yisrael, V'amar Rav Yochanan, machlokes b'levaina habayim mincha. The concept we saw very easily. We're only discussing levaina that comes together with the mincha. However, that's where Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon argue that even when you lose the levaina, the mincha is going to be kosher. If someone made a neder of a levaina, everyone agrees. You'd have the same kemitza. Says the Gemara. That's why it's only going to be together with the mincha itself. Another member of the levaina that goes together with the mincha, and the levaina that comes together with the bezicha, which are the 2 spoonfuls, they come together with the lechem abonim. Says Gemara Shita, why would you have thought that the levaina in such a scenario is able to be lacking? Explains Gemara, Ma'u the Tema. Since it comes together with the lechem, says the Torah kasher la mincha, so you would think that it's similar to a regular mincha, kamash malan, then no, it has its own special Dinim, and we conclude, says Gemara, Pligim Rav Hami, Rav Yitzchak Gnafla. Chadam Rachlek Zolavaina Abam Mincha, Avaloina Abam Neatzma, Divrei Kol Kaimitz, V'tchila V'kanch V'seif. Chadam Arki Machlek Zuzukach Mosek Zuzus, another way of learning the Machlek. So we continue with one last shtickle before the Mishnah. Chizer Lavaina Psula, what did the Mishnah teach us? If the Lavaina is diminishing its basal, Yasser Kashera, the obvious diak is by Lavaina. It's talking about Chizer, clearly indicating that by the Lavaina, if it's Yatir, if it's excess, it's Kshera. What's the problem? Atari Yatir Psula. Shnei Kimatzim. The Bryce is teaching us that when you have too much Lavaina, it's possible. It's talking about a case where he designated 2 Kimatzim. However, a Mishnah is talking about where he designated the regular Lavaina. And one of them is lost Kaidem. Kemitza Loyokbo. It's not Hokba for a carbon. Acher Kemitza Okbo. If 2 of them are lost out of the 4. And then Hokfu. Hasulamli is the exact same case. What if it's the same case twice? I know Hach. Maudema Kim the Bayer Kaimetz Nida. Kim Shagia Zvana Lepark. Command the Parkadami. Kamashalon says where you know what the Chiddush is. The Chiddush is that maybe Kivan the Bayer Kaimetz Nida, that the Kaimetz is already known where it is. Kim Shagia Zvana Lepark. Command the Parkadami. Maybe it's as if it's already done deal. Kamashalon not. I'll pick it up from the mission on the next year. B'siyata Dishmai.